Hi, this is Group 14. We'll be discussing a critical issue that is impacting industries and economies worldwide. That is the current disruption in global supply chains. The title of our presentation is The Impact of Current Supply Chain Disruptions on Food Supplies, Global Conflict Zones, and Boeing's Operational Challenges. This topic is particularly relevant today as supply chain disruptions continue to challenge businesses across the globe. Um, in in this presentation, we'll be covering the topics uh, how these disruptions are affecting food supplies, particularly in the context of Baltimore Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse and the influence of global conflict zones on supply chains and the specific challenges faced by Boeing in its operations. In this slide, I'll be introducing my team members, myself, Gokul Babu, and to the left, it's Faus Rahman, Visha Shaji, and Gokul Biju. The next slide is table of contents. It provides an overview, structure, and flow of our presentation. We'll begin with an introduction, setting the stage for understanding the critical nature of global supply chain disruptions. Following this, we will discuss the significance of these issues, highlighting why they matter for businesses and economies worldwide. We will then outline the aim and objectives of our research, which guide our exploration into the impacts of these disruptions. Next, we will conduct a literature review summarizing existing research on the topic and detail our research methodology, including the data collection methods employed. The finding section will present the impact of supply chain disruptions on food supplies in the US, the influence of global conflict zones, and the challenges faced by Boeing. We will then analyze these findings using reserves dependence theory, fishbone analysis, and SWOT analysis. Finally, we synthesize our conclusions and offer recommendations, concluding with a list of references. And the next slide is introduction. Supply chains are essential for managing the flow of goods, information, and finances across the globe, making them critical for international trade. The COVID-19 pandemic exposed vulnerabilities in these networks, leading to significant declines in global trade. Additionally, geopolitical tensions and conflicts such as those in Ukraine have further strained logistics and production processes, emphasizing the need for more resilient strategies. The collapse of Baltimore Francis Scott Key Bridge in the US serves as a stark example of how current supply chain issues can severely disrupt food disruption. Boeing is also facing significant challenges due to these supply chain disruptions, which have exacerbated existing production delays. These disruptions have contributed to global inflation, further increasing the operational cost for businesses. As a result, companies are struggling with delayed production schedules and rising costs, making it difficult to meet delivery commitments and maintain customer satisfaction. The next slide is significance of global supply chain issues. The collapse of the Baltimore Francis Scott Key Bridge has had a profound impact on the US food supply chain. This disruption has led to significant shortages in the food distribution and has caused noticeable price increases, which have affected both consumers and businesses alike. The inability to transport goods efficiently across the region has exposed vulnerabilities in the supply chain, underscoring the importance of maintaining critical infrastructure. In addition to infrastructure challenges, ongoing global conflicts, particularly in Ukraine, have severely impacted global trade routes. Boeing is another example of a company facing severe operational challenges due to supply chain disruptions. Material shortages and logistics delays have resulted in significant production delays and financial losses. These issues are exacerbating Boeing's existing supply chain difficulties, making it harder for the company to meet its production targets and maintain profitability. The next slide is aim and objectives. Aim is to analyze the impact of current supply chain disruptions on food supplies with a focus on the Baltimore Francis Scott Bridge closure, global war zones, and the challenges faced by Boeing. Objectives are to examine food supply impact due to the Baltimore Bridge disruption, assess supply chain effects from the global conflicts, and to investigate Boeing's challenges related to supply chain issues. The next slide will be explaining by Risha. Thank you.
The next slide is literature review. The literature review highlights several key areas of concern related to global supply chain disruptions. The COVID-19 pandemic severely disrupted food supply chains, particularly in developing countries, where it led to inflation and increased food insecurity. This disruption was evident in countries like Iraq, where food supply chains faced significant challenges. In addition to the pandemic, the Russia Ukraine conflict has had a profound impact on global food supply chains, affecting production, logistics, and pricing. Geopolitical tensions have led to decreased cargo turnover and disrupted global trade, particularly through critical routes such as Black Sea. These disruptions have also impacted the supply chain critical raw materials including grains and energy, leading to increased cost and delays. Industrial supply chains, especially for companies like Boeing, have been significantly affected by material shortages and logistics delays, which have in turn impacted production and financial performance. The literature also emphasized the importance of data driven technologies in managing supply chain risk and ensuring continuity, particularly in the industrial sector. Next slide is methodology. This slide outlines the research methodology using the research framework. Our study adopts a positivist research philosophy, which emphasizes observable and measurable facts, aligning with the objective analysis of supply chain disruptions. The approach taken is deductive, where we start with existing theories and use our case study to test these concepts. We employ a case study strategy to deeply investigate specific instances of supply chain disruptions, such as those affecting the Baltimore Francis Scott Key Bridge, global conflict zones, and Boeing. A mixed method is chosen for this research, allowing for an in depth exploration of the issues at hand. The study is cross sectional, focusing on a specific point in time to capture the immediate impact of these disruptions. For analysis, we apply several tools, including resource dependence theory, fishbone analysis, and SWOT analysis, to gain a comprehensive understanding of the factors influencing supply chain challenges and to propose actionable recommendations. Table shows the types of data sources. Next slide is data collection. In this slide, we outline the data collection process, which focuses on three key areas of supply chain disruptions. First, we examined infrastructure disruption by collecting data on the collapse of the Baltimore Francis Scott Key Bridge and its impact on regional food supply chains. Sources for this data include reports from Richmond Federal Reserve, the Council on Foreign Relations, and Howlin Insurance Services. This data helped us understand the direct consequence of infrastructure failures on supply chains. Second, we looked into supply chain challenges, specifically those faced by Boeing, including material shortages and labor difficulties. The data for this segment was sourced from the US Government Accountability Office, Supply Chain Dive, and LinkedIn reports. These sources provided insight into the internal and external factors affecting Boeing's operations. Lastly, we investigated global supply chain disruptions caused by ongoing global conflicts, such as the Russian Ukraine war. Data was gathered from the International Monetary Fund, FreightFi, and research by Kamari. This information allowed us to assess the broader impact of geopolitical tensions on global trade and supply chain stability. Next slide is findings supply chain impact on food supplies in the US, Baltimore Francisco Key Bridge. The collapse of the Baltimore Francisco Key Bridge caused severe disruption to food distribution, resulting in a significant 20% decrease in fresh produce availability within the mid Atlantic region. This disruption not only affected the availability of food but also led to increased transportation costs as shipments had to be rerouted and longer transit times became necessary. These factors combined have driven food prices up by an average of 8% in the affected areas. The economic impact of this disruption extended beyond just food availability. Approximately 15,000 jobs linked to food trade at the port of Baltimore were affected, leading to increased cost and potential market shortages. Financially, The disruption has had significant consequences, with estimated ensued losses potentially reaching up to 3 billion. This situation underscores the importance of better risk management strategies within the marine insurance market and across the broader supply chain industry. This underscores ethical responsibility in ensuring robust, resilient supply chains to protect communities.
Hello, myself Google. I am going to explain next slide. Finding impacts of war zone on global supply chain. Ongoing conflicts such as Russia-Ukraine war and attack in the Red Sea have severely disrupted key trade routes, including the Suez Canal. This disruption has caused a significant of 50% reduction in traffic and extended delivery time by over 10 days. This highlights a vulnerability of global supply chain geopolitical instability. The Russia-Ukraine war conflict in particular has led to a sharp rise in energy and food price. European energy cost has surged by more than 40%, contributing to global inflation, which reduced which reached 8.8% in 2022. Additionally, in help in Ukraine wheat export, which make up to 30% of global supply, along with disruption in metal supply, had put immense pressure on global industries. Shipping costs have also increased dramatically, rising up to 30%, further exacerbating supply chain challenge and adding inflation pressure. These disruptions highlight ethic concern about global dependency, prioritizing profit over and equity distribution. Next slide is finding supply chain challenge faced by Boeing. Boeing global supply chain, which include over 12,000 suppliers, is currently facing significant disruption due to material shortage and logistical delay. Critical materials such as aluminum and semiconductors are in short supply, lead to increased production costs and delay in aircraft delivery. This delay has strained Boeing customer relationship and reduced operational efficiency. In addition to material shortage, Boeing is also deal, dealing with skilled labor shortage, which has been identified by majority of manufacturers as a major issue. This shortage has particularly affected to the production of the 737 MAX aircraft, further hampering Boeing's ability to meet demand. This combined challenge has resulted in billions of dollars in additional cost for Boeing and has also posed potential risk in the company reputation. Boeing has had to allocate over 4 billions of address to this issue. Moreover, repeated delay has led to growing customer dissatisfaction, which could result in loss for further contract and negatively impact Boeing market position. Next slide is resource dependent theory application. Resource dependent theory provides a valuable framework for understanding the challenge faced by organization when external factors disrupt their supply chain. According to RDT, organizations are inherently dependent on external resources that are often controlled by other entities within their environment. This dependency can lead to a vulnerability, particularly when these external research become scarce or when the environment become unstable. As seen with the Baltimore Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse, geopolitical conflict, and Boeing supply chain issue. For instance, the collapse of the bridge exposed critical logistical dependence such as the reliance on a signal infrastructure route for the food distribution. Similarly, Boeing challenge illustrate how dependent on skilled labor or critical material can distribute production when these resources are limited or delayed. RDT suggests the organization must strategically manage this dependency by scaling alternate reserves.
Hi, myself Fauzi Rahman. I am going to explain next slide. Fishbone analysis. Fishbone analysis, also known as Ishikawa or cost and effect analysis, is an effective tool for dissecting complex supply chain disruption and identifying their root causes. In the analysis, the major factors contributing to supply chain issues are categorized into five key areas: machines, equipments, technology, method, process, material, raw material, and consumables, manpower, physical or knowledge work, and suppliers. For instance, the collapse of the Baltimore Francis Scott Key Bridge distributed logistics by removing critical infrastructure, which is which in turn caused significant delays and increased cost of food production. In the context of war zones, distributed transport routes and reduced availability of essential raw materials have severely strained global supply chains. For Boeing, the shortage of critical materials like semiconductors and the lack of skilled laborers have exacerbated production delays and customer dissatisfaction. By breaking down these issues, the fishbone analysis highlighted the interconnected nature of supply chain challenges and emphasizes the need of comprehensive solution and address these complex disruptions. The next slide is SWOT analysis. Strong port networks and logistics hubs support global supply chains. Resilient routing capabilities for shipments amid distribution and albeit higher costs. Boeing global supply networks bolster aircraft production. Weakness depends on a single routes exposed by infrastructure failures. Geopolitical risk disrupt global supply chain, increasing cost and delays. Material shortage and labor challenges hinder Boeing production timelines. Opportunities: infrastructure investment is crucial following infrastructure failures. Supply chain diversification can mitigate geopolitics risks. Manufacturing innovation can improve Boeing's production efficiency. Threats: economic instability from infrastructure failures and geopolitical tensions affect supply chains. Inflationary pressure rise from supply chain restriction in essential sectors. Mm, Persistent supply chain challenges may damage Boeing's reputation. The next slide is synthesize. The synthesis slide focus on the core problems of vulnerability in supply chain due to external dependencies and environmental disruption. The vulnerability is dissected into three major areas: the impact on food supplies due to the Baltimore Francis Scott Key Bridge disruption, the effect of global conflict on supply chains, and Boeing's specific supply chain challenges. The collapse of the Baltimore bridge represents a significant infrastructure failure, leading to severe disruption in food logistics, increased transportation costs, and the resource scarcity. On a broader scale, geopolitical conflicts, particularly in war zones, have a distributed global supply chain by attacking critical shipping routes and reducing the availability of essential raw materials such as a grain and energy. These conflicts have also led to labor shortages, further straining logistics and increasing cost. Boeing supply chain challenges are compounded by material shortages, process influences, and labor constraints, all of which have delayed production and deliver timelines. This is synthesis underscores the interconnectedness of these issues, highlighting the need for robust strategies to mitigate the risk posed by external dependence and environmental disruption in the global supply chains.
Finally, we are going to concluding our presentation. The Baltimore Bridge closure, global conflicts, and Boeing's challenges underscore the vulnerability of supply chains, leading to increased cost, shortages, and inflation, particularly in food supplies and production. External dependencies and environmental disruptions such as geopolitical conflicts and infrastructure failures significantly impact critical industries, highlighting the need for resilient supply chain strategies. Core issue of vulnerability in global supply chains arises due to external dependencies and environmental disruptions. These vulnerabilities are significantly exacerbated by geopolitical conflicts, such as those in war zones, infrastructure failures like the Baltimore Francisco Key Bridge collapse, and widespread labor shortages. The combined effect of these disruptions lead to increased cost, severe supply shortages, production delays, and inflation which are particularly detrimental to essential sectors like food distribution and major industries such as Boeing's operations. The analysis highlights the urgent need for resilient and adaptive strategies to address these vulnerabilities, ensuring that global supply chains can withstand and recover from such disruptions more effectively in the future. The next slide is recommendations. Current supply chain disruptions. Implement diversified, sustainable, and collaborative strategies. Baltimore Bridge closure. Implement alternative transportation routes and enhance local supply chain resilience to mitigate food shortages caused by infrastructure disruptions. Global conflicts. Diversify supply sources and invest in supply chain flexibility to minimize disruptions from global conflicts. Boeing's challenges. Strengthen supplier relationships and exposure alternative materials to overcome supply chain constraints in the aerospace industry. Environmental disruptions. Prioritize green logistics and sustainable practices to reduce vulnerability to environmental disruptions. Technology integration. Leverage digital tools and blockchain technology for enhanced traceability and supply chain transparency. Collaborative partnerships. Foster collaboration with local communities and stakeholders to build resilient supply chains, especially in urban areas. Thank you.